Tonight we have a very special guest with us. His name is Jordan Burnham. He was interviewed by Mike Vitez from the Philadelphia Inquirer, actually. He's been featured on CNN, NBC 10, has been in People magazine in the Heroes Among Us section, has spoken at numerous speaking engagements, and now he joins us on Transitions Radio. Jordan Burnham, welcome to the program.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you, guys. I really appreciate being here. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
We love to have you. Jordan has a very special story to share with us tonight, an ordeal that serves as an inspiration for others to share their experiences and has led you to speak openly about your struggle with depression, a mental health disorder, and about mental health issues in general. Would you please share your story with us tonight, Jordan?
Yes. Just about 3 years ago, in 2007, September, I attempted to take my own life when I was a senior in high school by going out of my 9-story bedroom window. I was battling with depression and going through highs and lows. And at that point, during my senior year, that's when I decided that I would try and take my own life, again by going out my window. It's 90 feet, devastating injuries, broke my fibula, my tibia, shattered my femur, broke my pelvis, broke my jaw in 4 different places, and broke my left wrist, bleeding internally, and also was in a coma for 5 days. So I was in the hospital for 5 months, and while I was in the hospital, the Philadelphia Inquirer reporter, Michael Vitez, who you just mentioned, decided that he wanted to interview me about my story. And the story came out January of 2008, and ever since then I'd been speaking on my story and on mental health to young adults.
Your story recently came back into prominence just recently with your feature on CNN. Is that correct?
Yeah, a live interview with CNN.
And People magazine, right?
Yeah, People magazine. Actually, People magazine was kind of a surprise because 2 weeks ago I was featured in Sports Illustrated. The story wasn't there. And then I got a call the next week from People magazine. And I had done that interview for People magazine literally a year and a half ago. So it was kind of a surprise for it to all of a sudden run, doing the CNN interview and then having People magazine. So it's crazy how the media works sometimes, but it's great to be sharing the story still.
And it's a wonderful story. It's very inspiring.
It's very true. It's a very inspiring story. So after your incident, you spent 5 months in the hospital. You're out of the hospital now. It's been 2 years, 2.5 years since the incident. You're now speaking at numerous speaking engagements to different high schools, different conferences, whatever they may be, through Active Minds and mindingyourmind.org
Right.
are the organizations, and you speak about your experience with depression. So what I want to do now is, if we could, I want to explore the definition of depression, how you define it, and clarify what it means to be just depressed versus actually suffering from clinical depression. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Being diagnosed with depression, depression is a mental health disorder. Now, 20 to 25% of young adults suffer from a mental health disorder, but 2/3 of those people don't seek help because of the stigma that's associated with it and just the lack of education that comes along with mental health disorders. Now, depression is something you're diagnosed with, and there's a difference between being depressed and actually having depression. When you're depressed, you can be depressed about anything. Anyone can be depressed. But when you're depressed, you know what you're upset about. There's some X factor that's making you sad, making you cry, making you sad to the point where you can't get out of bed. But with depression, you can wake up one day and have no idea why you're upset about something that you were happy about yesterday. And it's not whether you're going to wake up having depression or not. It's just what level are you on. And for me, that's what it was like waking up every day. What level am I on? 1 or 2 saying, I don't even want to be on this earth anymore. Or 9 or 10 saying, all right, today's a good day, but what's tomorrow gonna be like? And I always sum it up in the lottery theory. A lot of times I say to people, how many people would be ecstatic if they won $1 million in the lottery? Pretty much everyone raises their hand. And the way I explain it with my brain, with my depression, is that I focus on the negatives way too much. I'm happy about winning $1 million for about 15 seconds, then I start to think about the negatives. Well, they're going to take taxes out. My parents are going to say I owe them money, which I don't. Save up for my apartment next year, pay tuition. I have to pay all these other things off. So by the time I get that money in the mail, I'm not as happy as I was those first 10 or 15 seconds. And that's the way my depression would work.
Can you describe your experience as a speaker, Jordan?
So when I started speaking, I guess the one thing that took me by surprise is how many students really felt a connection to not only having a mental health disorder, having mental health issues, but to suicide as well. I didn't know there would be so many students that would come up to me afterwards and share their personal story. Because I know for me in high school, we didn't have the type of assemblies that I give on mental health, a lighthearted presentation, even though I'm talking about a serious topic. When I was in high school, we had one person come in for our health class, if you had that health class, and give suicide statistics and warning signs and how to stop them. Now, granted, that is going to help when someone gets to that suicidal point, but where is that bridge where someone is saying, I'm happy, and now I'm going through mental health issues to the point where I want to try and take my own life? So for me, that's what I try and do as a speaker, is fill that gap between someone being happy and then being diagnosed with a mental health disorder, going through mental health issues to the point where they want to try and take their own lives. And hopefully during that point, knowing how to seek help, knowing how to talk about it. I'd say all the time that every young adult has a rainy day. It's just whether they can find the right umbrella for them, and that's what I encourage students to do. And it's extremely important, too, when I speak to not only high school kids but college kids. I really like to focus on the 11th and 12th graders in high school and then the juniors and seniors in college, because there's so much pressure once you get to those grades of saying, what am I now going to do in this next phase of my life? What's going to be that next step after I graduate and have to go into the world as a new person now and reaffirm myself? So it's interesting going around the country when you go to all these different places all over the country. It's different students, different circumstances, but the same problems. And that's why I give 100% effort in anyone that I'm speaking to.
Jordan, you're also featured in the People magazine section, Heroes Among Us, yet you do not consider yourself a hero. When you're asked about this topic, you refer to a specific memory when you were little, killing spiders for your sister. Okay? And that's when you felt like a hero. You said that this sometimes falls into the sensationalism that surrounds around media, that something, that we only focus on the tragedy when something like this happens. And we're not so proactive and preventive when we're dealing with mental health issues. Do you want to share your views on this, about how you feel about being a hero?
Yeah. When the story first originally came out in January of 2008, I knew that people were going to be touched by the story. I knew that they would be affected by the story. But the first time that I got called a hero was by a woman in her 40s, and she came to visit me when I was in a rehab hospital for physical rehab. And she came to me and she came up and said that I'm her hero. Now, I don't think there's not a lot of 18-year-olds who are prepared to hear that, and that certainly falls into my case. I just wanted to tell this story to hopefully generate and start a conversation with kids and their parents, or parents and their kids, however the way it works. Whoever read the story, that's what I wanted to happen. Now, when I get called a hero, I do feel a little bit uncomfortable. Because, like I said, like you just said, killing spiders for my sister when she's scared to death of them, that was what I consider being a hero, helping her out. But even though I know that telling my story and people reading my story is literally saving lives, it's still, I still kind of cringe when I get called a hero. But I understand what that means now. They're not calling me a hero for falling 9 stories and surviving. What they're calling me a hero for is surviving that and then going out and telling the story. Now, my attitude from day one when I woke up in the hospital was, one, I feel extremely fortunate to be alive after a 9-story fall. Ironically, the last physics class I had was on heights. And our physics teacher used to be a firefighter, and he told us that the cutoff point for life and death is 5 stories. So I knew how fortunate it was for me to be alive. And the second thought in my head was, I'm just going to tell my story to hopefully make a difference. And in my mind, I figured that's what anyone would do in this situation. I just wanted to do what was positive and constructive as far as getting myself back, getting my life back. And I figured that's what anyone would do. And so I never wanted to sensationalize the story. I didn't want the media to do that. I just wanted to focus on the main topic, which is mental health, and talking about young adults and opening a conversation, which is what I try and do. That's why I really appreciate this interview and talking about it.